seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't buy.
Yes, how we all doing? Hopefully you can all hear me loud and clear tonight. We always have technical issues on the old Bhoycie bus. It's the Double Doon Show. We do it every weekend, a Friday or a Saturday. And as always, it's going to be a Bhoycie bus viewer that comes on the show. You know it, I know it. If you want to get involved, drop me a DM, leave a wee comment in the comments section, and we'll get you involved. That's exactly what our good man, Marc Spowart, did. Welcome along to the stream, Mark. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, mate. Brilliant to have you on now. Bit of background, me and Mark kind of know each other, don't we, mate?
Yeah, kind of.
Aye.
Yeah. Goes back a wee while now, but I think many nights in the old Beat nightclub in Bridgevallen probably account for a lot of that. But hazy nights, but nevertheless fun.
That's exactly my memory, mate. It's like standing in the chat and going, how's it going, man? Oh, have a great night, man. Have a great night. Yeah, exactly. Didn't really know each other, but it's good. Anyway, Mark, brilliant to have you on the Double Doon Show tonight. As you know, it's just a standard sort of Celtic chat that we have, really. And the small matter of a wee quiz at the end, which is growing in notoriety, confusion. And I think last week, to be completely honest, it increased in difficulty on poor Stephen Thomson as well. A wee bit sorry for him looking back. I made that.
Well, this is the thing that, of all the things I've been thinking about coming on tonight, and thanks for having me, it's great. As I say, I will say from the outset, this is not an opportunistic, we've won the Old Firm, we're top of the league, we're flying. We spoke about this mid-January when the land was lying a little bit different. So as fate would have it, here we are, we're top of the league. So it's just luck that I'm on this time and not in mid-January. But the Double Doon quiz has been on my mind for quite a while, actually. So I'm a wee bit nervous about it, but we'll see how we go. Hopefully there are not any stonkers in there.
No worries. I'm getting told it sounded like I was underwater as well. For some reason, the microphone changed, and I had no idea why. You sound loud and clear, Mark. Hopefully it sounds a wee bit like... Bhoycie, it sounds like you're talking into an empty tin of beans. I mean, what can I say? And now, as soon as I turn this mic on, my picture goes glitchy. I actually give up, man. But anyway, as long as you can hear me all right, I can only apologise for the... I don't know why it does this. I actually think it's StreamYard as well that I've got a problem with. That's the folk that we use. So if you're listening to StreamYard, sort it out. And you don't like my microphone, I don't know why. It's just a USB thing. As soon as it goes in or it goes active, my picture seems to slow down, then it goes on this slow motion sort of way. Anyway, not to worry. I'll do that whole opening again, Mark. We'll start all over. No, I'm looking. We have a lot to talk about, all right? Liam Collow's late to the party. He's telling me I sound like it's the year 3000 who lives underwater. Busted lyrics, I think, there. Apparently it's been sorted, Liam. So it must have took you that long to type all that up, mate. I've got some news. I've obviously not been drinking this year, really. I've been off it, mate. I've been off it, and I like a swally, but I'm saving up. However, work were kind enough to give me some present for being shit hot at my job, something like that. And they gave me a bottle of whiskey. So I'm having a wee dram. Not a typical whiskey glass. But aye, cheers to everyone. It's awfully nice. Johnny Walker Black Label.
Very nice drop.
Phil McGinley says the sound quality is great now. Now, Phil McGinley is coming on the show next week, right? So we really look forward to getting him on the Double Doon Show. But I think he's on the charm offensive a wee bit now as well. He knows the clock is ticking now, Phil McGinley. I don't know who's pregnant, but I don't know what it's got. The comment section, you'll learn to love it, Mark. You'll learn to love it. I try and keep up with it as best I can. And if I look away for 2 seconds, I look back at the comment section, I'll be like, what? But I've had a lot of fun culling fans of the other side that have been coming in to try and rip the piss out of me, out of the team, whatever it may be. Strange way to spend your time. But do you know what? Who cares? It's all good. We have got this weekend, we're playing Wraith Rovers. I'm not going to do shall I do a fan cam for it? I don't think anyone will care. I'll definitely do post-match pish. But it should be a relatively quiet weekend on the Bhoycie bus this weekend. But without further ado, a big thank you to fanboyfootball.com. I think you've heard of them, Mark. And,
I'm sporting one of the numbers actually tonight. It's the old the old number there.
There you go, mate.
So, yeah, never miss a beat.
It's cool. No, I like that, mate. I like that. And it's a smart. I mean, the t-shirts are cool as anything. No two ways about it. So a big thanks to fanboyfootball.com. Exciting plans coming up with them. We're going to have a Bhoycie bus section. I can't believe it. I'm saying this already, but we are. So really looking forward to that as well. Without further ado, let's talk some Celtic, Mark, because we've actually been caught a wee bit off guard tonight. And the reason for that has been, there's been huge news coming out of the club. I understand there's someone who's becoming a bit of a pantomime villain on Twitter, that Joe Black guy, whatever his name is. I mean, he's not on my radar. The guy just seems like a twat, to be honest with you. But everyone seems to be enjoying the gloating at him. So I think he was actually asking Celtic today publicly, like tagging them in it saying, "Interim's not due out yet today." I think he'd have got a fright when he's seen them, because the huge news, obviously, regarding the year-end accounts, profits of £27.6 million pre-tax were announced. This time last year, it was a loss of £5.9 million. What does it all mean, though? And I am not one to go down crunching numbers all day and night. Do you know what I mean? I'm a football man, Mark, right? That is what I love. I love the football. I love the team that play in green and white on the pitch. And you know, even the politics at times, I sometimes pull away from a wee bit, because, again, it's just my favourite sport. They're my favourite team. If I can keep that in my mind, I don't get too caught up in it all. But with the numbers that we're seeing today from Celtic, you're beginning to now think them coming out right now at the end of a cluster of fixtures that we've came out not just unscathed, but with a 100% record and now first place in the league. It ramps up the pressure a bit more, in my opinion. Now, the reason I'll say that, Mark, is with those numbers in mind that we're seeing there that Celtic have recorded, it almost is like, do you know what? We don't need that 40 million as much as maybe our rivals do. And that, in a way, whilst it might not lift pressure on us in a sporting sense, it might just put a wee bit more on the other side as well, knowing that we can actually afford to finish second, you know. I'm not saying they can't afford and they would go bust or go as dramatic as that, but what I would allude to is, undoubtedly right now, Celtic is in a financially robust position to go again in the summer, win or finish second in the league title this season. That is one hell of a position to be in, considering the past 18 to 24 months COVID era that they've played in and been a part of. What was your sort of reaction to the numbers, Mark?
No, I think you're right. I think it's given the circumstances and obviously the wins that we've had and the form that we're on the pitch, it's a bit of a power play off the pitch, I think, at this time. And looking at the Ian Bankier statement, he obviously talks about the fans coming back being a huge boost to revenue. Obviously talks about player sales, Edouard, Ayer, huge sums of money. And he also talks a little bit about, the continued risk of COVID and managing, the risks that we still have to prudently run the club, and that for me is kind of managing fans' expectations. And I think we'll come on to it in a bit when we talk about people like Jota, CCV. I think he is kind of managing expectations a little bit, saying, look, we're in a really comfortable position. We didn't qualify, and that's without the Champions League money. We didn't qualify for the Champions League. We had the Europa League. Obviously, it's not quite the same, as we know. So I think it's a really well timed play. To talk about what's going well off the pitch. The show the other night, you talked about, when things aren't going so well on the pitch, we kind of point at different things and say, oh, what's going on there, and that needs fixed, and that needs fixed. Right now, we're on the crest of a wave, and with this now, it kind of backs that up.
Yes.
Further reinforces, it's got great on the pitch, and we're actually looking quite pretty off it as well. So I think it's a well-timed statement, but I think there is elements of Ian Bankier's statement that just temper a little bit the fans' expectations, and it might be quite in relation to the kind of furore around, let's get Jota signed up and let's get CCV in the door. So yeah, when I read the statement, and like I say, we were kind of caught a little bit off guard time-wise, but yeah, no, I think that's for me, it's a great position to be in, not having that kind of burden over your head to say, well, we need to win. Not saying we don't want to win the league, of course we do, but
of course,
it takes a little bit of pressure off. I think, having that kind of stability. So yeah, I think it's a well-timed statement.
I totally agree. I think the statement's very deliberately timed as well, and I think it rams home the message that Celtic's been. I was going to say invented there. They've been around for years, but I think Celtic as a club, certainly since Martin O'Neill's maybe second summer sort of spell, I think then the club has been built to be self-sufficient no matter what. Now, it was lucky in a way Celtic were so financially sound when the COVID era began that we actually had the money. I know it was misspent on the likes of Ajeti, Barkas, etc., but it was quite reassuring to think we had that there, those resources there to spend during a pandemic, because we didn't need a loan from the SPFL, for example. And I'm not going to point score on the fact they got our loan, although it is a wee bit funny. So I kind of did. But I mean, realistically, Celtic, even then, that should have been a sort of shot over the bow to not just our rivals, but the whole of Scottish football, that they're getting offered, what was it, an interest-free loan or something like that by the, 1.6 million. Don't need it. And I appreciate there's other sides to it as well, where Celtic fans weren't happy that some members of staff on furlough, etc. And I get all that. There's more to it. But in terms of a footballing context, if Celtic want to strengthen in the summer, it won't be dependent on whether we qualify for the Champions League via winning the league or not. What it also means is, this is what I like about the safety net and the parachute of this, Mark, right? Say the worst comes to the worst. And by the way, I don't think it will. Just speculating. Say we finish second. Ange is going to, firstly, as we know, wants to be fast, active in the transfer market and get his players in early. If we repeat what we did in January, in the summer, say we did finish second and get players Ange identifies in early bells, we've also got the resources to do that. Do you know what? Who's to put it past us qualifying through the Champions League playoff route anyway? And I think that is what's really impressing me, is we're not having to go, well, if we finish second, it's going to be a panic job in the playoffs, and it's going to be really, well, if we get through, we get through, but we'll just have muddled our way there. Whereas right now, we can now start strategizing for the best outcome. I have a list of targets now identified that are of maybe a higher bracket, shall we say, and then have another one set aside for, if we finish second, get them in. They'll be available early in the summer, and the notoriously early playoff route we might need to follow, we may well be equipped for. That's another, I think, aspect of what these accounts mean. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're probably in, obviously we don't like to say it, but if we did finish second, we keep saying it, but, I think we're in a great position to, take away the sort of unconventional route of getting straight in for winning the league. Take that away. I actually think if we went back a season, we had Ange in place and we had all the players and the style of play. I actually think finishing second, we're in a great position to go that conventional route. I don't see it as being a kind of, we get to the end of the season and everybody starts going, oh Christ, we need to prepare for Champions League qualifiers. We're in a bit of a mess. It's even when we've won titles, we've kind of felt like, oh, we need to strengthen for these Champions League qualifiers around the corner. I actually think so. Yeah, both ways, obviously, preferably route one. But no, I think we're in a really strong position to do either. But I just think it's really good news. Obviously we care more about the football on the pitch. We always will. But the fact that we've got that sort of stability, I think that's essentially stability and platform to push on. We're on. Right now, everybody's buzzing about the football on the pitch. So this just complements that. I think for me, a lot of people say I don't really care about that, but I think actually when you look at when you think about the Champions League and actually we want to compete in that, not just qualify. We want to compete, and I think that's a huge. This news kind of says, well, actually, maybe that's a real possibility next year that we're thinking further ahead than just qualification. I think Ange will be certainly.
Yeah. Well, I think absolutely. If we want to be, this is the thing. You get derided if you suggest Celtic should be potentially winning the Conference League this year. I push that back massively and I go, look, we're in the third tier of Europe. I never wanted to be in the third tier of Europe. I don't see it as a success point of the season that we finished third in the Europa League. I don't see it as a success point that we got knocked out the Champions League qualifiers, albeit fully aware of the hurdles Ange had to face. I get the bigger picture. But as a fan of Celtic, it's never good enough to be going out of Champions League qualifiers, going out of the Europa League at the group stage. Because see, if you start accepting that, that's when your standards drop. And the one person I know who will share that view is Postecoglou. I know he knows he doesn't want to be in this tournament, but now we are there. Let's fucking win it. And that would be a statement as well. In terms of the Champions League that you bring up, I think it's fascinating, Celtic's whole attitude or lack of attitude or bad attitude, whatever you prefer, towards the Champions League. It's been an incredible relationship Celtic have had with this Premier competition that, again, thanks to the coefficient, and by the way, whether we like it or not, a lot of good work done by the team across the road to boost that coefficient. And this might not last long when they've got Dortmund to face. But the thing is, with the Champions League, we had a free hit at it effectively for years. I think it was something like we qualified 3 in 10 years or something like that, 3 times in 10 years. Now, realistically, that's not then a case of unlucky, tough playoff opposition, etc. There's no coincidence when it's as often as that, Mark, that we don't qualify. It is either a lack of preparation for it or we don't want to hedge our bets on it. We don't want to speculate to accumulate that Champions League money. Now, for me, that's really quite negative. We must be, if we do qualify for the Champions League, for example, next year, one of the only clubs sitting with a surplus of cash in the bank. What do the rest do? The rest are sitting there all, dead figures left, right, and centre. You need to look at Barcelona, Real Madrid. It's frightening how much debt these clubs get into. And I'm not advocating doing anything like that from our perspective. Absolutely not. But you also can't help but think, from a footballing point of view, you'd probably make it back anyway. Now, I've said this on the pod many a time, and I stand by it. Brendan Rodgers, 2 years out 3, he qualified for the Champions League. Now, to me, that is the bare minimum sort of ratio Celtic as a club should be looking towards, Mark. Particularly if there's going to be these 2 places up for grabs, whereas even if we have a honker of a domestic season, you might still be able to get in the back door into the Champions League. Now, the thing is, the 2 years Brendan Rodgers qualified, the club turned over £100 million, 2 years in a row. Today, we're celebrating the club turning over what? 52 million, was it? Sorry, £52.9 million. 52.9 million. That's half. And yet that's now seen as and don't get me wrong, it's a huge bonus, particularly with the pandemic taken in mind.
Mm-hmm.
But Celtic's attitude towards the Champions League has to change. I think, going by the books that we've seen tonight, or the accounts that we've seen, that have been released, we're equipped now to make a fist of becoming a regular qualifier at the very minimum for the Champions League. I know you said compete in it. I think right now, let's just regularly get there. And then the next step would be, of course, as you say, to compete.
Yeah, no, I look, competing in the Champions League is probably a bit of a reach at the minute, but certainly getting there. But I also think we also do this dance in the summer where it's, we may have targets or people in mind that we would want to sign or spend money. And it's always that, we'll spend the money when we get to the Champions League, when we get the Champions League money, but then we'll invest. And I think, there's reasons for that, of course, but I think it's been quite frustrating when you talk about those numbers 3 and 10 years. I think you mentioned there that becomes a very old and very tiring dance for fans. I think to think, when we get into the Champions League, and it might be, you always feel it'll be, if you never think, you never expect. I mean, certainly from my opinion anyway. I mean, you look at the 4 qualifying games, or sometimes 5 or whatever it is. I'm never sitting going, that's we'll be there. You'll be in the playoff. There are always these tricky ties, and it's always that holding back of investment, which you can understand to a certain extent. But I think with the regularity that it's happened, that 3 and 10 years has really been a frustration for the fans. That we'll hold back and we'll invest when we get there. So, but I think you're totally right. Right now, with the bargains, you can call them that, bargains that we've got, the structure that we've got, the style of play, the manager, we can make a really good fist of it at cost. I think that's the key thing. And then obviously, like you say, there's 2 options. You got to get straight in, and I'm sure there'll be a plan A. I'm sure there will be with that money and that investment. But I'm sure there'll also be a plan B. There'll be a plan B as well. And the announcement today, like we touched on earlier, stands us in good stead. Should that be the case? But I hope not, obviously. But yeah.
No, I agree with you. 100%. Now, I want to dive into a parallel universe. Now, everyone knows I like to go into these wee alternative scenarios and stuff, Even I'm recreating Martin O'Neill's era as Celtic manager right now when I play my Championship managers and do the stream front. So, if you'll allow me, Eddie Howe gets the job in the summer. I know this is all irrelevant because he didn't, right? And I get that. But is Eddie Howe in charge of Celtic, even if, say, we were top still and all that, and we were in the exact same position, say, right? That's what we are. We're in the Conference League with a good chance. We're top of the league by a point. All that stays the same. But it's Eddie Howe in charge. Those accounts don't look the same, do they? And that's not just the manager's wages I'm taking into account. He'd have been getting a pretty penny in the transfer window to spend as well. As Terry Robb says, what I'm doing is flipping it.
No, I agree. I think Eddie Howe would have came a different prospect altogether financially for Celtic. And I think, not that we're doing anything on the cheap at the minute. And like you say, you talk about the backdrop of the pandemic. I think it's been a real good fit. Ange has been a real good fit on the pitch, as we know, but off the pitch as well financially. And that kind of, in a period of real uncertainty and, insecurity in terms of finances and the fans not being back and not knowing when the restrictions will end. I think doing what we've done, has been amazing. I think it'd be a different prospect with Eddie Howe, and I don't think we'd be talking about the same numbers like you say. Right now, if Eddie Howe was in charge, who knows what would be like on the pitch? But I don't imagine would be half as exciting as we are now. You talked about the other night. Is this the best Celtic team? And getting carried away, but then you kind of flipped it and mentioned about is it maybe not the best team, but is it the most exciting? And for me, I was speaking to my brother and my dad about it, and I can't remember a time where I've been as excited for midweek games, weekend games, to watch Celtic play. So I think it's been perfect for us on and off the pitch, as the accounts show. But different prospect with Eddie Howe, I think. Who knows? We might have been further ahead. You never know.
Yeah, but it is interesting to think about that because no doubt he would have came at a far greater cost. Now, again, and I don't like to harp back and make it all about me, but just very briefly, I was sceptical about Postecoglou's appointment for numerous reasons. I did my research on his back career as well, by the way, so it wasn't just all based on I hadn't heard of him. I think that's too lazy an argument, and I'm not like that. But one of the other big doubts I had was, why would this Celtic, or what have they ever done to make you feel they would be appointing a progressive manager? Like, where would they ever think outside the box to do this? They didn't. They appointed Neil Lennon last time round in the showers. Where have they suddenly came up with this wonderful move? Now, It absolutely has been. But I'm going to put my cynical hat back on for a wee second, if you allow me, Mark. Is Ange Postecoglou the absolute perfect manager for them? Is he dreamland? Because what he does is he builds all the bridges with the Celtic fans without them saying fuck all. He's built it, all those bridges. They're still chipping away at that, for example, by closing standing sections. That shows how ridiculous that relationship could still be if it wasn't the right guy in charge. On top of that, Postecoglou, they don't need to spend on a head of recruitment, right? They save the wages there. They don't need to bring in any backroom team for him, so they save wages there because, let's be honest, it's an inexpensive coaching team that we've got. No disrespect, but that is not going to be an expensive amount of coaching staff. Do you know what I mean? With John Kennedy, Stephen McManus, guys promoted from within. Not that it's necessarily always a bad thing, but again, I still think it favours the board. Thirdly, by not having a head of recruitment, by only having Ange being the one to implement his style initially, Ange then needs to be the guy who signs players and they need to fit his style. Where have you worked previously, Ange Postecoglou? Oh, in Japan and Australia. What's the going rate for a good player over there? 1.7 million, 4 million. What was the other one? Rio Atati, 1 to 2 million. I mean, Ideguchi, under $1 million. I mean, the board are now, my cynical aspect of me just can't help but think he is hung out to dry if these players fail, because blatantly they're his identified targets and no one else's, because no one else would have been able to have had that knowledge of the J League, for example. And secondly, they're inexpensive flops if they were to flop. The only thing that can happen is they don't come out it looking bad, and if it all works, they'll get kudos for letting the manager do his job and all this. Is there a bit that they have landed on their feet in so many ways with Postecoglou as a manager?
I think so. I think, look, when, as I said before, and you've mentioned it in previous shows, when things are going well on the pitch, things are the behind closed, the things that happen, in offices and boardrooms at Parkhead tend to be going well as well. And I think you're right. I think it goes hand in hand. I think the stuff that happened last year, and there was you could a litany of stuff you could go through that we weren't happy about. I mean, you were even talking about the Celtic Twitter, wishing Ramon Vega a happy birthday. It was pissing people off because it just felt like an absolute disconnect. So when someone like Ange comes in and he gets the sort of people, the Celtic fans on board, the teams singing off the same hymn sheet, life will be inevitably easier for the board. That's the way it goes. If, like you say, the players come in and they're not as good as Ange has obviously professed that they are, then obviously you're right. Ange probably does get hung out to dry, and that's the nature and the fickleness, I think, of football. I don't for 1 minute, have any. Personally, I don't think the board, great appointment, absolutely great appointment. But I credit Ange for a lot of what we're feeling right now as Celtic fans, the togetherness, the excitement. I credit Ange for that. I don't particularly think the board have played a blinder. I think there's still a way to go to sort of connect with the fans again. I think there's after last year, I don't think they're fully all the way there, but someone like Ange helps.
Well, he does a lot of their dirty work for them, I feel.
Absolutely.
He comes out and he says these amazing little quotes every now and then. The most recent one, I'm sure it resonated with you, Mark, was 95% of people that came to watch the team today would have came with problems, and hopefully we've allowed them, I'm paraphrasing obviously, we've allowed them to forget them for 90 minutes today, and you're like, shit like that, you're going, the board was incapable of that during the pandemic. Now they've got a manager that's inexpensive, signing inexpensive worldies at present. They've went top of the league. They are loving their life right now. Now, it's getting pulled up there by James Young for not, he says, talking to us the night, Bhoycie. I do apologise. I just think it's the accounts to me, I was actually buzzing that they got released tonight for the show tonight, because there's so much more discussion points you can take from them we've just had there. The actually aren't about crunching numbers. It's not about that. It's all about the ripples that, and the effects it has on us, the supporter, us, the fan that wants to just see the best team possible on the pitch. Do you know what I mean? There's much more to it than, it's brilliant that we made more profit there and we made, I'm not giving a fuck about all that, really. That's for different people to sort of work out than me. But it's how that knock-on effect then impacts the quality, and the product on the pitch. And I think being able to dip into, parallel universes, like, would we be in such a good position with how well? No, we wouldn't. Even if the team was performing as well, it would have cost us a hell of a lot more to achieve what Ange has with this team. Then you start thinking, the board must be lapping this up right now. They don't get the expensive Eddie Howe that they probably felt at the time was the only guy that could unite the fan base again. They've actually brought in an unknown, probably waiting on a backlash, and it's fucking worked out amazingly. David Kelly was sceptical as well, and he says that's because what he heard from Aussie journalists. To me, there was an over positivity and like overconfidence that he was going to do well. And I always think Scottish football might not be the best football in the world, Mark, but it's bonkers. It's a completely different stratosphere from any other kind of football. And it does take a bit of time to adapt. And I think as well, Ange Postecoglou has adapted during his spell in charge of Celtic. No two ways about it. The rock and roll football we were seeing at the start of the season is far more measured now. And don't get me wrong, he might say, well, I'm teaching the same lessons to the team. They just understand it better now. And I would take that on board as well. Hail Times 2 comes in, Big Ian, and he's saying as well, there's no way that board landed Ange themselves. He was Mark Lawwell's recommendation. And that wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. Absolutely not. But, I mean, David's in there again, and he's saying, we brought in 50 million in transfer fees. We spent half of that under Ange. None of the signings have been massive gambles, but we have a squad that is worth a lot again. And that's the thing. So it's really impressive. Celtic have 25 million now, they're saying, roughly, in the cash in the bank. Seems to be the sort of narrative. How much have they got on the pitch and on the bench? We keep talking on the pod now about the strength and depth they've got. It's like for like players. One's coming in, one's going out, and they've both been able to do, if not the exact same job, very similar in terms of quality. I think we've got a right back who, if Leicester City are looking at right now, is going to be 15 million upwards. I think Kyogo with the bidding wouldn't start until he came in at 15 million, and that's him only half a season. You're looking at players all over the pitch right now that are only going to get better under this as well, and thus our value is going to grow both in the bank balance and on the park. And if shit hits the fan, we have assets now that we can sell that have cost us very little. That's all down, in my opinion, to Ange Postecoglou, not this forward-thinking, innovative board that have decided to scour the J-League for the best manager they could find over there. That, to me, seems a wee bit far-fetched. But we'll move on. I've enjoyed that, though, because it's a good news story. Another good news story in 2022. A year that just isn't failing us right now so far, and long may it continue. Now, obviously, still slightly with the cash in the bank in mind, and I think you knew this was going to come. The campaign, the desperation, the social media hype now we're going to see from Celtic fans. Now they feel they've had a look under the bonnet at Celtic. Any wee 10% fears they had about us potentially being skint, and listen to that clown on Twitter. Now they've all gone. We know there's cash in the bank. Two names are going to keep cropping up. Jota, Cameron Carter-Vickers. That is going to intensify. Obviously, why not? Because now we go, well, the money's there to get them. Fucking get it done. And get it done now. Announce them during the season. What a boost it could give everyone. What do you make of all that situation? And how do you see it, Mark, panning out?
Yeah, so again, money on our mind here, but I think with the Jota, I think the Celtic fans are more than entitled to be expecting those two to be locked down, if possible, on long-term deals, which could be quite tricky, as we know. But I just when I read the sort of Bankier statement, I go back to that again. It's kind of, we talk about the Odsonne Edouard sale and the Ayer sale, but then he mentions about we've made significant investments to bring players in, not on the same level, by the way, as we spoke about. Bargains, very, 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 well, a lot less than the sale of Odsonne Edouard and Ayer. So I think it's reasonable to expect that Celtic fans would say, well, wait a minute here, we're happy, we've got a great appetite to get rid of players, or not get rid of players and sell them for big money. Where's the same appetite to bring players in with that money? I know it's not like for like, and there's things, like we spoke about the pandemic, and there's challenges behind closed doors that we won't know about, but I think it's reasonable to expect that you say, look, there's two big hitters left last season. Let's get these two in. And look, we don't need a scouting report. We don't need somebody. we don't need any of that. We know they're fantastic. We know they're good. They're proven. And
no
like,
bedding
it's
in
not,
period.
Yeah, we're not, yeah, exactly. No bedding period, and we're not talking 30 million here. Well, I hope not.
No.
Anyway, I hope Benfica. But I don't know the ins and outs of that deal or how it works and what kind of influence Benfica have over it at this stage. But I think it's reasonable to expect that we should be moving on those. But I just fear that statement, if you get a chance to have a read of it, is a bit of a, this is great, but there's still, we've still got challenges. We've still got things that we need to consider. There's still risks there for us. So we'll have to be prudent and run the club, in the right way, while also kind of advancing our success on the pitch with players coming in. So let's get them signed up. I think that's what everybody wants, but it's just whether or not we do that, in good time. I think I don't know. I'm just skeptical, I guess. It goes back to that Champions League, League sort of dance where you say, we'll spend money once we know we've got money coming in, sort of thing. And I think the Celtic fans now know, we can see it. It's there in black and white that there is money there, and we're certainly thriving after a tough couple of years. So why not? Exactly. Yep. As you said in the comment, why not? It should intensify, and there should be pressure for the fans to say, look, we've seen big players go. We should be seeing the same coming in. So I think it's reasonable.
I mean, I think we're looking at those two players costing the combined what we got for Chris Ayer. If you had a model like that and you're saying you sell two assets, you retain all the money for one of them, i.e. Edward, and you spend the rest on two quality players. And I mean, two guys, and guess what? They know how Scottish game works. They've played in it for a year for you. They're tasting success. They've got a great bond with the fans. I just feel that in this league title race as it is right now, and I still think with regards to the race, it's another topic, but I'll wait till they've went away from home again before I'm convinced they're right back in this, without being too disrespectful. But I also think with the likes of Jota, I mean, Jota particularly, just because he's the poster boy, you announced that, say, before the top six split, something like that. Jota, done deal. And before you know it, it just goes nuts again. The wave of optimism. Celtic fans, right? This is what we want. We want the club to believe the club is as big as what we believe it is. I see when they give you wee glimmers of it. You get 13,000 there when Brendan Rodgers is unveiled. Do you know what I mean? You get thousands outside when Robbie Keane signed. Stuff like that is because Celtic believe. And when Celtic believe, we don't back down, we double down on our belief. And that is genuinely what happens. And I just think Jota and Cameron Carter-Vickers, they're going to get a lot of pressure now because the evidence is all there in black and white. The accounts have been released. And as you say, yes, with a word of caution, but fans won't give a shit about that, Mark. The majority. They'll just look at the numbers and look at the values. Now, Red Baron, our resident Rangers fan, came in asking about Jota's 6.5 million. Is that set in stone now? Whatever the fee is, and again, I've heard it was 6.8 million. That's what we were told in the summer. It was 6.8 million pounds. Cameron Carter-Vickers one's still a bit unknown. We've seen various reports on that. 6.8 million, I believe, is what Jota will cost. Whatever the fees are, they've been pre-agreed because that's the only way you can have a first option to buy. So Benfica can't move the goalpost and go, oh, he's done well there. He's now 15 million, for example. What can happen, though, and what we need to be careful of, is Benfica could be having a word in Jota's ear right now saying, we like what you're doing there. Wait till next season comes round, and you'll come back, you're going to play first team football for your boyhood heroes.
And absolutely, and the flip side of that, flip it again. What we know from what Ange says, or we certainly know from what he says publicly, that he's not doing this, he won't do the same. He said, look, I don't need to tell players how big an opportunity this, how big a club this is. They need to want to be here. So I do wonder. I'm sure he'll have an arm around him and say, look, and kind of talk to him about it. But does Ange, when he says that, I don't need to convince players to stay here. I kind of worry a little bit because I say, I just give him a couple of words of encouragement, But no, he makes a good point as well. Look, Jota needs to want to be here and want to continue with Celtic and build something, because it's for us it's special. But like you say, he's got that Benfica. Benfica might be having a word. We obviously know that he'd obviously be keen to thrive there as well, having not had real crack at the whip
Yeah.
there. So, you know, he's a young lad. So you can see sort of from a sort of neutral point of view why he would be kind of torn. But I think from what Ange has been saying, it's basically the player needs to really want to be here. We're not going to try and convince him. You know, that's the kind of impression I get. So I guess we'll just wait and see. But that's the risk. That's the risk. I don't think financially it's a risk. Like you say, goalposts surely can't be moved post the deal. You know, but it's actually what's the blocker. It's probably how the player feels, which we probably all don't want to admit. But
no, I get that. It is the truth, and I think that's really what the delay is. I think if Celtic would have known by January the same way every fan knows, right? Just sign him. He's a tick, right? Jota's a tick. I think the only reason that, and now we know Celtic knew in the January window what we all now know, that the money was there to buy him as well. So if that could have been done, then the only hiccup can be that the player's still not quite over the line there. I think we need to remember Celtic's left his Celtic to come to us. That is the equivalent of what us playing for Celtic, you know, or being, you know, if Celtic loaned us out and we did really well somewhere, if we were, obviously, again, an alternative universe, geez, so don't make me dig out the old headband. But I think though, if, you know, a Celtic player was loaned out and then we said, he's doing brilliant over there, let's bring him back. And they didn't want to come back to us to play in a lesser league than ours, only slightly lesser. I mean, the Portuguese league's not amazing, but we would kind of be, we'd be a bit like, what the fuck's all that about? So I think patience is going to be required. The whole point of this discussion is, though, right now, firstly, the impact Jota had midweek, and we're going to talk about midweek shortly. This might be a long show tonight. The whiskey's helping. But I also think that with regards to Jota and Cameron Carter-Vickers, don't put two and two together too quickly. Just maybe respect their views right now as well. Maybe the players are, you know, trialing Celtic, if you like, as much as we had. We could have had them, and they could have been both shite, right? And we'd went, right, the trial didn't work out that loan. We can end it. We can be as cutthroat as that. So the fact they've both done really well so far, maybe we need to now give them a bit of kudos and go, one would be leaving the English Premier League, albeit he doesn't get a game for them, but considering his spell at Bournemouth in the Championship, I think, and his spell with us, I think Cameron Carter-Vickers would be looking at a promoted side for English Premier League sort of level team, a Norwich sort of level. Do you know what I mean? Which would again be bucks we probably couldn't compete with. Jota's going to be looking at potentially going back to his hometown club. You know, these guys might just want to sit right now and hedge their bets. We might need to just let them do their football, because what we're seeing right now on the park is simply tremendous from both, by the way. And I know Cameron Carter-Vickers has a far, far more unglamorous job, a less glamorous job than Jota. And certainly no one looks as glamorous as Big Jota, but they're both contributing as, you know, indispensable sort of first team members. We Championship Manager reference there. But that takes us on to Pittodrie. Now, we've all had time to calm down, and it's either the party at Pittodrie or the panic at Pittodrie. Depends which side of the fence you're on, I suppose, with this one. Now, was there over-the-top negativity towards the display from some? So I was told anyway. What have we learned from Mark, and where do you stand on the performance? I mean, we, on the bus, firstly, just before I come in, on the bus, I think it was a resounding between myself, Jonathan, and Conor. We did speak about the odd negative aspect, but on the whole, we thought, wow, seen another side to Celtic. But I want your thoughts on it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, I kind of said this, I posted one in the comments actually in the post-match piss show, and I kind of said, like, you know, what I expected was that we would go out and we'd blitz Aberdeen, you know, Fir Park on Sunday, Rangers the previous week, in midweek, and I kind of thought we're going to go out and do it again, and it looked for all the world that we were going to do that. So that was what I expected, but actually what I expect and what I accept are two different things, and I'll accept 3-2, 1-0, you know, scrappy wins like that in this title race. But I think in terms of what we learned, I mean, set pieces, I mean, for me, I just, you know, watch through my fingers every time we can see a set piece or a corner. I think this time last year, Sky Sports have come out with the figures that, we were the worst team in the league for conceding set pieces. And, this season is no different. We're kind of, that's our real weak point. For me, I kind of raised the question, same backroom staff, and is that something we really need to look at, and kind of how we defend our own box when balls are coming in? But I think what we learned was it's not always going to be easy. It's not going to be this glamorous, scintillating, blowing teams away football. I think there's periods in matches where we totally fall out of it a little bit and we let other teams in. We've said that before, this great run that we've been on. We always said that, great first half. Tynecastle was a great example. It's very similar, actually, Tynecastle, when we won 2-1. I think, for me, that's the big learning, was that we need to get better at defending set plays. Any championship winning team does. But also that we need to just accept that it's not always going to be this blitz and, teams away and blown away.
I get that.
We nearly did, though. We were 2-0 up and we thought, here we go again.
I know.
What an enjoyable night ahead. But it wasn't quite to be that way. But that's to be expected. So I think negativity, for me, would just be on the set plays. I think we're so weak in that area, and I think it needs to improve. But apart from that, because we could be sitting here, I thought, when I was sitting on the couch in the other room watching it, I thought our conversation might be quite different tonight. For periods of that game, I thought, oh God, we were on such a high. I was going on Friday night. We were going to be partying, but it might have been a 2-2 draw. So, and we went up and scored. But I think, for me, the weakness of set pieces is I just think we need to get better at that. I think to kind of sustain this run, because there will be times where we lose goals like that, and it will cost us more.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with the set pieces, this seems to be an ongoing issue. This seems like, to me, like a legacy issue, if you like, which isn't a bad terminology to be using at this time on a Friday night. But I think a legacy issue is what we have with set pieces. This has been going on since Brendan Rodgers was in charge. I keep saying his name on this podcast, I do my nothing. But anyway, I feel set pieces, I think, what was it, at one point we went 2 years without scoring from a set piece under Rodgers. It was baffling. Defending them. What is your big issue with it, Mark? Because for me, right now, when Celtic defend set pieces, how often that ball manages to bounce, either in our 6-yard box, or the edge of our 6-yard box, around the penalty spot. The ball seems to land. And once a ball bounces in your box from a set piece, such as a corner kick, dangerous free kick, whatever, it causes mayhem. And it always leads to clumsy, untidy, both challenges and clearances of the ball that really could land you in more trouble from the next phase of an attack. I don't understand how we're not able to command them both, because out with the set pieces factor, I think big Carl Starfield's been pretty commanding at the back in the last 2 months. I think Cameron Carter-Vickers has been extremely commanding since day one, to be absolutely fair to him, and he actually plays beyond his years. We also have another option, and that is going to be Chris Jullien. Now, we're going to talk about players potentially coming in for the Wraith Rovers game at the weekend, and I'm sure his name will come up, Mark. But with regards to Jullien, he not only brought a focal point in our own box to defend set pieces, other side of the park, flip it. Other side of the park, he scores something like 7 goals in his first season. Is it him that's missing, or is Jullien doing something for Celtic that was in spite of the coaching that's going on right now? Because we can't say this is a new problem watching Celtic. This has been going on for ages.
Well, that's my point. I'm not slating the backroom staff, but there are guys in that staff. We talk about John Kennedy, and I think with the Lennon season, people were saying, well, what's going on here? We've got a defensive guy like John Kennedy in there. Why can we not defend corners better? How do we not defend set pieces with a bit more strength and a bit more security? And I think it's, like you say, it's a legacy. It's a legacy thing. It's not just Ange and come in, we're weak at set pieces, but hey, we go up and score at the other end, so it's fine. I think Jullien coming back will be massive. I rate him very highly, both ends of the pitch. I think he's an absolute threat in there. I don't think we score enough from corners. Well, we don't score enough from corners. Attacking wise, when Carter-Vickers came in, I thought, here's a guy that's going to go and attack it. I thought he'd probably get a bit more of a return as well from corners. But I think Jullien coming back it's not a magic wand, I don't think. I think there's other things, just defending the front, the first ball a bit stronger. Like you say, when the ball bounces in the box, it's mayhem. It's absolute mayhem, and
it gives you the fear.
Aye, and I just think, I think that there's the second goal. It was a great ball in the box. But it just felt like there's nobody really, it's about that desire and want to not concede from a set play and a set piece. And I'm sure they talk about it, but for me, it's just every time we can see the set piece or a corner, I just think, here we go. This is going to be the thing that undoes us. And I think that's been the case for a number of seasons. But Julian coming back will be a positive. So, it might not fix it completely, but it might make it a hell of a lot better.
David Kelly saying we've improved at set pieces under Ange. If that's so, I'm not sure. I would maybe expect, I don't know, more context that, David. In what way do you think we have improved? By the way, this isn't going to be all about, it's a disaster, what happened to Pittodrie because of set pieces. I just feel like it's been an ongoing problem. And I'm not going to pinpoint John Kennedy. I'm not going to pinpoint, it being Gavin Strachan's iPad. I'm not going to say Ange Postecoglou doesn't care about defence, because we were told all that by said Australian journalists and Japanese journalists when over the last summer. I think he does. But there seems to be an issue there, a deep-rooted issue now. Someone needs to take charge for that, because that is where we could come a cropper, I think, set pieces, especially in a league as physical as the SPL. But let's now look at the other side. The other side was, in a first half that wasn't as high intensity, as blockbuster as what we'd seen maybe in the last few games, we still had a commanding 2-0 lead at half-time. Away from home, Pittodrie, notoriously one of the toughest fixtures on the list. Usually one of the biggest fixtures in the SPL calendar, or SPFL calendar, but yet our broadcasters chose not to show it, which is a real shame. We also then seen in the second half that resilience, that bit of dig, and that's what I liked. The attitude 5 months ago, even under Ange, I don't think we go on and win that game. I don't think we go back up the park and score that third goal, I'm afraid. It's just my take on it. Mark, there is a lot to be quite excited about. We've seen Celtic win a completely different way midweek than what we have done so far in 2022.
No, I agree. I think we did. I think we've, if you go back to the Dundee United match, for example, it's kind of that last minute Abada goal. That was touch and go. But we had to fight. We had to dig deep. We had 10 men when we actually scored the last goal. So we've done it. But we're capable of digging deep. I think Pittodrie was just, like you say, we're on that kind of crest of the wave. We were sort of went out 2-0 half time. You thought, right, this is over, and that sort of feeling, the old feelings came back, earlier in the season where you thought we've not got a handle on this game, and you always feel at 2-0. I mean, at the start of Ange's tenure, I was always saying at 2-0, saying, we need another one, and that's crazy. And actually, in the last few weeks, I've actually felt that's kind of went away. Wednesday night kind of brought it back a little bit, but equally we went on to win the game, so that's an ultimate positive. Like you say, you always hear people say, 6 months ago we don't win that game. Under Lennon, we don't win that game. The start of Ange's career, there's no way we're coming out of there with 3 points. Well, we did. And I think that's a massive testament to how far the team's come and the grit and determination. But yeah, it's just get the set pieces sorted.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I mean, it was one of those nights. It was the good, the bad, and the ugly. But the good, the bad, and the ugly were performances I felt in the first half of the season. We were having the Europa League, for example, but we weren't getting results. We did see the good, we did see the bad, but the ugly bit was the scoreline. Yes, there was a mix of that, a combination of all those three elements midweek there at Pittodrie, but we come away with 3 points. And that's what's filling me with a lot of hope that this team has now got to grips with the title at stake. And I think it was a really positive thing, the display we put in at Pittodrie. I appreciate as well, these guys they have busted their balls for Celtic since the winter break. I mean, I've never seen teams play, as I say, with that intensity and so long for Celtic. The pace they play, it's the word relentless can't be used often enough to describe them. They don't give other teams a minute's peace, and that is the kilometres they must be covering each game. The stats, particularly at half-time, must be blowing the sports scientists' minds, I think, sometimes, Obviously, I don't have any to hand because, well, I don't. But, I get that vibe anyway. We'll move on, though, from Wednesday, because Conor and Jonathon I had on, Mark, for some post-match pish midweek. Right now, post-match pish in the fan cam lives, I think it was a combined 7,000 views. I know it was a combined 7,000 views midweek. And a huge thank you to everyone that helps, because that's fucking frightening for a guy with a shit webcam. You know what I mean? And terrible lighting. But hey ho, and a terrible microphone. Hey, but and a love for whiskey, it seems. But I mean, the thing is with that display, I've lost my train of thought now. What they were saying, Jonathan and Conor, was it might be the right time now, on the back of the toughest, sort of biggest slog to a victory that we've had since the winter break. It might be quite nice now to turn our attentions to the Scottish Cup and the Europa League next. And just now, we've now got the chance as well to reflect on the run that we've been on. And it's the league I always look at is in segments. The first half of the season interrupted by the international breaks. You know, you go, right, 6 league games and then it's international break or whatever many it is. Mm-hmm. How many points do we want from that? How many games are away for home? Who's the toughest opposition? How many do you think realistically would be a target for that? Now, Celtic have won, what, is it 7 from 7 since the winter break? 21 points. Or since Christmas, it might be. Because I think we played 7 from 7 since Christmas. That's an astonishing record. A wee bit of reflection. How important a segment of the season is it that we've just completed? Not just because of the maximum points taken up, but that period was always going to be huge as well. Because for me, it was the make or break. It was Celtic were either going to fall further behind and belief might get lost, or we were still in the race. Incredibly, we seem to be in the dream scenario of we've actually, got rid of the deficit in points and overtook Rangers in the league race. It's been a pretty special time that we've had in the past sort of month or so.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, the winter, the Christmas sort of fixture list is always difficult. I think, we usually have obviously the 2nd of January Old Firm. For me, coming and then on historically as well, we've seen that year where we were kind of neck and neck. I think Rangers actually beat us, and then we went on that run in January. They stuttered and faltered. There seems to be that split all the time, and I think for me anyway, personally, when we came out, Rangers kind of started against Aberdeen and 1-0 against Livingston. I started to think, right, okay, maybe they're having the falter, but we have to back that up then with results against Rangers themselves. We need to go to Aberdeen. We need to go to, and like you say, you look down the list and you go, right, how many points from this? I think 15. You're saying, maybe 12 or whatever it may be. Maybe enough. That's maybe we'll take that. Look, we've got 15 out of 15. So it's a massive period. It might turn out to be the biggest period of the season. I think the reprieve that we get, although Ange disagrees, it's no reprieve. We want to do well in the Scottish Cup, as he said today. But we get a bit of a rest. And to your point about Conor and Jonathan, I think they said actually it's just about as much of a rest for the supporters as anyone to kind of reflect and say actually. So I'm quite looking forward to it. You said it'd be a bit of a quieter weekend on the Bhoycie bus. I'm sure you're grateful for that too. So it is nice to be able to come away and go like that. You know what? Let's enjoy the 2 ties we've got. The European tie midweek, the Scottish Cup tie on Sunday at home. It's good. And the guys on the other night say as well, that can go the other way when you don't win and you're not doing so well. And you go, oh, fuck, Scottish Cup, Europe, oh crap, So, I'm more than I'll just keep going. I'll just keep talking. I'm more than happy. Yeah, absolutely. I'm more than happy. Is that more whiskey?
Hey!
So I'm more than happy with the spell. I think everybody is, but I think this break is actually you talk about a reprieve, and I think that's great. If you look at it the other way, I'm also a big fan of this momentum and just keeping that up. So I think what I don't want is it's going away, and we'll come on to it in a bit. What players might feature on Sunday, what players might feature on Thursday. Does that upset rhythm? Does that upset momentum? You never quite know. So there's a bit of a you could look at it both ways. But for me, good timing. What a great spell we've had. 15 points out of 15. One of those against Rangers, and it was an absolutely dominant performance. So what can you say? I think we'll look back on this and say, this is probably the most important part of the season. There'll be more to come, but I think for me, this could be the most important segment, as you put it.
Yeah, definitely. I think that we will look back at the end of this season. I think it's going to be a successful season. I really do. I think we will win the league. I'm convinced of it. I think I've seen enough now so far. I know it's the right way to think anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
But if we are to be successful in it, then I think it will be the spell that we've just had. I'll look back on. I will definitely and think that was the time where we sorted our shit. was make or break time. We were 6 points behind. We had to play our rivals during that spell. We had Motherwell away, Aberdeen away, Hearts away. I mean, you look at it on paper, you start going, wow, we've overcame all of that and actually have went top. I mean, try and knock us off that. Now, you led us on nicely, though, when you were talking about the interruption to the rhythm of the play, for example, that you were saying there, Mark, if we were to make changes. I envisage a lot of changes for Sunday. I think the workload the players have had is to be expected when you're at Celtic, yes, but the style of play and the way that, Ange wants them, demands of them to be both on the ball and off the ball is at such a pace, such a work rate, that I think it's just rewards for a certain number of them to get, some time either sit and watch it for the stands or on the bench if the worst comes to the worst. Who do we fancy, though, to come in if there are going to be changes, and why?
I think Ange was talking about it today, and sort of we've kind of came out relatively unscathed from the recent fixtures. Obviously, we've still got the long-term injuries. We know that. Who's this? Chris Kerr, right? All right, okay. Ah, well, what's that been? It's been an hour. Fair dues, Chris.
There's no hiding place on the bus, mate. There's no hiding.
No, absolutely not. Front seats. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it, mate. Appreciate it. I am now. I was probably better back then, but no, I think we spoke about Julian, and like I say, coming through that period relatively unscathed, still got the long-term injuries. I think obviously Julian coming back. I think we've mentioned that he'd been training, probably not the full game, obviously. Guys like I don't see us playing a massively weakened team. I think guys like James Forrest, look at Mickey Johnson, if fit. I don't think there'll be massively wholesale changes. Ange did say, like when asked by the media today, kind of the impression I was getting was, look, this is a big game. We want to do well in the Scottish Cup as well. So there's not this kind of we'll just we'll go out there and obviously expecting a really tough game. There's not this kind of like we'll just do wholesale changes. I think I think he pays respect to the rhythm and momentum that we've built up, and going too far that way with all these changes and guys getting a chance, because they've waited. I don't think for me, I don't think that's Ange's philosophy. I think he says, no, we keep. Obviously, there will be some changes, but I think we keep a kind of, a similar team to what we've been playing with, in recent weeks. But I don't see there being kind of a team going out and saying, oh, great, look at all these guys getting a chance. It's kind of an unrecognisable 11. I think there'll still be that core, but with pockets of people coming on and. But yeah, I don't see. Look, I don't know. I don't read Ange's mind, but certainly, I think it'll be quite a strong team we put out. Guys like James Forrest, like I said before, maybe Giakoumakis starts. Who knows? I think it'll be a strong 11, and then throughout the game, if we are on top, there you go. John Duncan there. Ange says he doesn't rest players, and I totally think, I think that's for the very reason that the momentum has been built and rhythm has been built, and we don't want to lose that entirely.
I get your point there.
Yeah. So. Who knows?
If we're to rotate it, Mark. Now, I appreciate that's what you think, right? That's fine. Let's just say we are. Let's just say we are rotating it, and there's going to be, I don't know, a handful of players coming into the first team. Who would you like to see, if we are going to be playing players, get an opportunity against Raith Rovers? Now, we know that's not going to define whether they go up the rankings in terms of a place in the first team or not. We know it's Raith Rovers. But who would you like to see to maybe get some minutes under the belt and get themselves up to that, optimum level where they can challenge for a regular starting slot?
Difficult question, because I think for me, the whole Mikey Johnson for me, I think is one who you spoke about on the show before, and saying that we're always kind of waiting for something to happen, and with him, and I think this is a perfect game for him. We're on a bit, like I say, we're on a bit this positive sort of this run of games, and I think he's a confidence player. I think if we put him on, I'd like to. I would love to see him make a real good stab at first team football going forward. I think he's a talent, but I think we're all just waiting for something to happen. So that would be one. I'd love to bring Sorrow in and give him a game. I think he's I really like Sorrow. I think he's a great player, and it just doesn't quite fit. Or it certainly feels that way anyway. I think Eddie Gucci's back, or Gucci as he's been called. I think Ange said that was probably the big notable change. Let's get him in. Terry Robb, absolutely. Karamoko, sort of a bit of a stranger to first team football. If fit, let's get him in. And I think those, but I don't think from the start. This is the thing. This is the key thing. I think we go out fairly strong. I don't know what the sub is. Is it 5? Is it 5 substitutions still? in play. So you could see us going out and taking care of business early on, hopefully. And then we know Ange is like, he could change, Doak, fantastic again. These guys, but I think those will be players will start on the bench. I don't think it will be a kind of and I think it will be, if we get things done early, Ange likes to make 3 subs at a time if he can, or 4 or 5 subs at a time. I think that's probably what we'll see. But all the people that I've mentioned, and certainly Doak as well. I've not seen a lot of the guy, but I'd love to see them come in. But Mikey Johnson for me, I'd really just like to see his Celtic career take off. It's not happened yet. I think he has a talent, but these kind of games kind of, you put him in and you say, like, this is the opportunity to go and do something. We'll see what happens. But what about yourself? Who you looking forward to seeing?
I think it is a good question. That's why I looked at. That's why I asked you. Can you still hear me?
Can do.
That's why I asked you, because I don't like cancelling the. No, it's all good. I think for me, Chris Julian's a must start. If he doesn't start, then for me there has been some sort of glitch, shall we say, in his rehabilitation process. Right? There's, it's not going as planned. If it's about ability, like Ange was sort of alluding to at the press conference, and he didn't. I think he said something like he didn't want to use up subspaces for players who can play the same position. He probably has about 6 midfielders on his bench, but I get the thought process, Ange. But for me, that may well be a smokescreen to cover the fact if he's injured. We'll find out Sunday. For me, if Julian doesn't start, I mean, there's no point in Julian being on the bench. If the guy's 29, it's a long-term injury. It's Wraith Rovers at home. You get him in there, because if you don't, he isn't then going to be, without a 90 minutes under his belt of competitive football, how is he going to become an option, shall we say, for the matches in Europe? How is he going to become an option for crunch league games in the running in the title? He's not. So for me, Julian would be the one I would say. It's not just that I would like him to play. I demand that he plays it. That is not his demand. You know what I mean? That is definitely what I want to see. In terms of other positions, geez, we're getting on my soapbox now. I think Forrest definitely needs a game against lesser opposition. Just one where he can maybe try and rekindle some of that great form that he's been on, because he is capable, Forrest as well. I think he's another one. So guilty of fans are so guilty of writing him off at any opportunity, James Forrest. And I think Mikey Johnson, like you were alluding to as well, as I've always said, he has been injured a hell of a lot. He definitely gets more criticism because of injuries. And then there's other aspects to his game that is frustrating, and I get that. He reminds me at times of the criticism McGade used to get now. I get the fact McGade was a crucial part of title-winning sides, if not our focal point for a couple of years in title-winning sides. And even in the Champions League, and successful Champions League teams as well, ones that got through the group stage. But what I mean by that is Johnson's will always attempt to beat a man. If he doesn't beat his man, it looks selfish. It looks shite. Let's be honest. When you don't beat your man when you're a winger, and I think at times it's easier to sort of pinpoint those sort of moments as moments for criticism. Whereas if you're a centre midfielder, you could just play safe all game and come out of it, and the statos will tell you had a 96% pass completion rate. What a return to football. So it's not as glaringly obvious, for other positions than what it is when you're a winger and you're there to beat your men. And that's part of your game plan. So I think Johnson's involvement I would definitely like to see as well. Interesting, the one up front for me, whether we go Maeda or Giakoumakis, or could Sunday be the day we see 2 up front and we trial it? And you see what Giakoumakis, how exciting would it be to have Maeda running off Giakoumakis? And I don't like being lazy about Giakoumakis. I think he's got more to his game than just being a physical presence. I think at times as well, that's just looking at someone and then coming up with a description of them quite on face value as opposed to actually watching how he plays. But what I do think with Giakoumakis is he's up for it. He likes coming deep. He wants to be touch tight with defenders. If you've got a guy like that going into 50-50s, left, right, and centre with centre backs, there's going to be loose balls spilling. And I think then you've got Maeda who's willing, who seems to have a nose for it as well. Any sort of loose ball remotely in his vicinity, he's on it like a shot. And I think it'd be interesting to see how Celtic lined up with two up top. However, Ange may well be very rigid in his system. It does seem that he likes the way he's playing right now, and he wants players to be able to adapt to that, as opposed to him adapting to the squad at his disposal. But it's an interesting question. I do hope to see, though, a few different faces in the starting lineup, Mark.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think actually, when you think about, we talked about Mikey Johnson there. Mikey Johnson, you know, if you think about it, if we've had Maida and Giakoumakis up top too, and then Mikey Johnson say out in a wider position, it would be unfair. I think it'd be quite unfair on Mikey Johnson, because you're asking him then to go and make to return on a system we don't normally play. I think if we play the normal system, the kind of one up top, the two wide men, what you're saying to Johnson is go out there, you know, go and get as good a return as we're getting from Jota, as we're getting from Abada, as we're often getting from Forrest. That's the challenge that set for Johnson, saying, look, we're getting fantastic, we're getting goals from both sides, both wings. These players are giving us a return. If you want to be part of this setup, you need to go and give us that same thing. So you need to, I think, to see if Johnson will work going forward, I think it needs to be in that same system. I think, I get you know, and say go and see what you can do. And I think against lesser opposition, like you say, James Forrest is a great point. Against lesser opposition, you know, going out and getting a bit of confidence back. I don't think he's been far off the first team, but I did have that kind of, you know, what is it going to be? Is that old the argument at the start of the season? Is it Abada? Is it Forrest? Who does he prefer? I think now it's kind of clear that he would always go with Abada first. But you know, you're bringing on quality with James Forrest, and I think a game on Sunday against lesser opposition possibly puts himself in a place for a start even on Thursday and gets himself back into some form. That can only be good, because we need players pushed in every position.
Yes,
so, yeah, that's as clear as day. We need players pushed in every position. So
I couldn't agree more with you. Now we've got a comment coming in from CMO 102 Legends, and he is a legend. He's got a Twitter following. I know, obviously, I do a wee bit of streaming of Championship Manager and all that on here. That's kind of how I started using the old microphone a few years back. And Legends is asking how Ange would do in England. Before I come to that, I was watching last night a different Championship Manager stream, right? You know, I know it's not, I should be watching Celtic pods all the time, but do you know what? Sometimes I do different things. And on Twitch, it says CM on the rocks. It was outstanding. If any of you have liked the Championship Manager content we've done, I advise you to go onto your Twitch page. It's free to be on Twitch, you know, and follow CM on the rocks. Fucking brilliant. It was outstanding. I felt compelled to give him a shout out tonight. But anyway, in answer to Legend's question, how well do you think Ange would do in England? We'll do this and then we'll do the quiz, because we've been on for fucking ages, man. But I love it. The thing is, Ange right now, in English football, I think could still take it by storm. I think there's a lot of opposition coaches Ange would be coming up against. I think he would have a bit of a field day with. And I know it's easy to say Claxon, Brendan Rodgers, but, you know, because I think he'd be a tricky one for Ange. I think it's the likes of your Lampards, your Moises. No offence, I know Moises is doing good things again this year with West Ham, but I think there's a lot of managers on a merry-go-round there that will have shown enough similar patterns in their career that Ange will be able to take advantage of with his style. But Ange won't be in England anytime soon, Legends, will he, Mark?
I hope not. I think about this. Remember the Bielsa's Leeds, you know, and everybody was raving about how, you know, attacking, you know, the kind of overlapping fullbacks and all the rest of it, and they were blowing teams, or they certainly weren't blowing teams away, but they were scoring lots of goals, free flowing. That had a shelf life in the Premier League. You know, it's a very tough league to navigate. So I think anything that, you know, if Ange did go down there, and let's hope he doesn't, but I think it would do well. I think he would do well, but I think it would have a shelf life. Certainly, it's you know, if he's not at one of the kind of bigger clubs, Ange at Man City would be it would be something else, I think. So it's a different prospect from Ange at Norwich, say, but both exciting.
No, definitely. It's great. I mean, it's been a great debate tonight, Matt. But unfortunately, just as your confidence is peaking and you're thinking, do you know what? I could start my own podcast tomorrow. That Bhoycie is not even as good as I thought. Do you know what? I'm all right behind the mic. This is where I bring you all back down to real life. It's the Double Doon quiz, guys. It is the Double Doon quiz. And that is how we are going to sign off tonight. As always, thanks with not only do fanboyfootball.com sponsor us, but also we are sponsored by Microsoft Stopwatch. Find it on all your windows if needed. Now, obviously, I need to go through the fucking rules again, right? Now, Mark, do you have a vague grasp of the rules at all? Are you struggling with them as well?
Vague. No, I think you'll be fine.
Happy days. You get 3 lifelines. There's 6 questions. You get 3 lifelines. Double Doon. You have to call it before the question's read, but it'll get you double the points for the question. Each question gets more harder as we go through all 6. But guess what? You get more points for each of the 6 questions as well. If you choose to back down, that means the question is removed and we just quickly move on to the next one. It could save you some time. Flip it means no matter what the question is, there is a flip it question there. You only get to use each lifeline once, obviously. And if you do flip it, it means we give you a different question. It might be an easier question than the level of question number that you're on, if you know what I mean. Or it might be, you know, of a question 6 level, and you might only be on question 2. You never know. Now, if you complete the quiz in under a minute, you'll get 50 points. If you complete it between 1 and 2 minutes, it's 40 points. Between 2 and 3 minutes, you get an extra 20 points. Do remind me of that, because Stephen Thomson is second in our all-time leaderboard, and the big man thought he was bottom up until like the last minute last night. So I do apologise. John Duncan says good luck. I don't know if he's saying good luck to the rules or good luck to you doing the quiz. There's comments flying, and Philip DeMarco loves the quiz. And I've got to give a shout out to Roscoe McLean because he's desperate for a shout out. He called me out on Facebook, but you're called in the comments. I hope you're still watching, because if it's a shootout and you're desperate to get a mention on the show, I know, and come on the Double Doon Show one weekend. Tell me your dates that you're available. I will get you sorted. We can do it. Now, Philip DeMarco, what are the rules? Fuck off. Right. Can you hear me loud and clear? Yes?
I can do.
Right, okay. I don't know if we're on a slight delay because my Wi-Fi is right, but hopefully just you get through the questions, mate.
As long as it doesn't impact my final score.
Yes, mate. Yes, mate. Right, we'll share the those sponsored stopwatch. Kieran Russell taking 5 minutes to explain the simple rules. Yeah. Right, 1 minute 23 seconds last week by Stephen Thomson. I thought he did very well. Right. Ready to play Double Doon?
Indeed.
Oh, I froze at the shout out. I was shouting out Roscoe, Poshko, whatever he's called on there. I was telling him to come on the show. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Let's get on with this. I'll get the questions up. Right. 3, 2, 1. Question 1. Who scored the first goal in a Celtic jersey on Wednesday night at Pittodrie?
Oh my god, I've went blank. I went absolutely blank. O'Reilly.
O'Reilly, that's it. Yep. Correct. Question 2. Stan Varga joined Celtic from Sunderland 2000. Nationality was the big defender.
Swiss. I know that's not right. Swiss.
Oh, we're breaking up. Say that again.
Swiss.
Yeah, Swiss. That's right. No worries. I've got you. No worries. Question 3. Name the manager heavily linked with Celtic in the summer who has been sacked by Parma already.
Oh, flip it. Sorry, I'm losing you here. Flip it. Aye, got you back.
I can't believe this is happening now. Name one of Martin O'Neill's managers.
Oh my god. Back then, I cannot think for the life of me.
Right. No
Past
worries.
my bedtime,
no
mate.
worries. Question 4. Celtic were knocked out of Europe in Martin O'Neill's first season in the UEFA Cup second round. Who by?
Valencia.
Mate. Question number 5. What shirt number did Magic Zaravsky wear for Celtic?
7.
Question number 6.
Double Doon.
Remember, yay! Tony Mowbray signed 3 players on loan in January 2010. Robbie Keane was the big name. Name the other 2.
Jeez. Good night, everybody. Oh God, I don't know.
One came from
Let
Fulham.
me think. Oh, terrible. I've lost my train of thought. I've completely lost it now. One came from Fulham. I don't know.
No worries.
I don't know. I thought I'd be better at this.
It's all right, mate. The question is hard. Apologies for it cutting out. I do apologise for that. I mean, they keep saying the Wi-Fi is dodgy. If you knew where I live in the sticks, man. And it's annoying because everything else works smoothly. It's just StreamYard, the old Wi-Fi doesn't like, so it must put a heavier demand on it. Anyway, because you're not going to have won the quiz, right? We know that. There was some questions in there, though. I felt, for example, you took too much time, for example, on number 1.
Oh, absolutely.
Current affairs. Now, the other ones can be a wee bit, you can throw you, and I get that.
Yeah.
But question number 1, who scored the first goal in the Celtic jersey? I think we were at 25 seconds by the time we got O'Reilly. But of course you were right, and that gets you 5 points. Now, Stan Varga, I knew it. I had it in my head he'll say either Slovakian or Swiss. You went for Swiss. He's Slovakian. I knew it. I knew that would be the answer. It's funny. It's a pitfall. But that was a tricky second question, to be fair. Now, this one I thought you'd have got as well. Have you any ideas to who I'm talking about now?
Not particularly, no.
Maresca.
No.
Celtic. Can
Sorry,
you hear me all right? Am I falling away then?
You're falling
No,
away.
it's
Come
my
back, and you're back. No, I never knew. Never knew that.
No,
One.
it's my
Obviously,
fault.
clearly, given the clock clearly suggests I didn't know that one. So
Give him under the 2 minutes for the glitch, and I think we can do that. That seems fair. So you'll get your 40 points for that, mate. Don't worry. Right, okay, that seems fair. That does seem fair. Because you were a wee bit in the dark there, to be honest. That is my fault. Apologies. Right, so Maresca you didn't get. Now, this one was tricky as well, but it was Lilian Lislandes scored 2. It was
Bordeaux.
Side. I don't know if we're breaking up here really bad. I do apologise.
You know, Bordeaux, and you know the worst thing about it was I was there.
No way. Oh,
Yes way.
that is annoying. Right.
That's a sad indictment, yeah.
Question number 5, though, you did get right. So 40
good with my shirt
points there
numbers.
because he did get. Oh yeah, because it was either number 9 or number 7, so that was always going to be tricky. Now, number 6, Tony Mowbray signed 3 players on loan. Robbie Keane, you thought of any more?
No, but I try to forget the Mowbray years. I've not. I'm still on the miser. Even when you've mentioned Fulham, I'm still at a loss. People will be shouting at the screens, I'm sure.
Diamansi Kamara, remember he scored a few goals, Kamara?
Right, okay.
He did that celebration.
Yes. Absolutely.
And then the other one was the left back, Brathwaite.
Oh, jeez, I feel better now. That's hard.
Brathwaite's pretty hard. Yeah, that is. It's 50 points.
I know
people, that, though.
I've got mates who'll be watching and thinking, come on, man, But like I say, shirt numbers is. I'm going to put myself out there and say I'm good with the shirt numbers. But that's about it.
Happy days, mate. Yeah, Zaravsky was. I was expecting you to say 9 for that, so that was good. Total then overall, 85 points, mate. 85 points. Not bad, mate. Not bad at all. Anyway, have you enjoyed being on the Bhoycie bus tonight, Mark? Despite all the Wi-Fi issues.
despite all the Wi-Fi issues and that first question is a bit of a, the Aberdeen who scored the goal. I mean, maybe I was thinking because it was a deflection, it maybe put me off a little bit. But no, it's been absolutely great. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Welcome.
Been enjoying the show these last few months. So it's been great to be on the other side of the screen and join you for a What better way to spend a Friday night?
Absolutely love it, mate. Absolutely love it. Anyway, I'm going to let you all go now as my Wi-Fi is probably failing even more. I do apologise for that. We'll play some music. We'll see you all back on Sunday. Should we do fan cam? Let me know in the comments. See you all later. Cheers again, Mark.
Cheers.
Comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now, and you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.